Welcome to the Curious Conversation Collaborative, a community for purpose-seeking entrepreneurs, leaders, and changemakers.
Listen to inspiring conversations with your hosts, inner leadership mentor Tessa Van Keken and business wealth coach Karen Ravel.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Curious Conversations. And after having done 2 sessions where we had our question and answer with people who came on to our show to talk about the way they coped in challenging times, we're back to our normal episodes. And today we're talking about routine in these weird and strange times. So, Karen, how are you getting on?
Well, talking about routines, I feel all over the place today. Totally disorganised. Yeah, just having one of those days, and it's only Monday morning. I just, when you just feel like I'm feeling a bit today, if I'm honest, inside. And then I think that's being reflected on my outside because I can't seem. I was quite organised at the weekend, and now I feel like I can't find my notes and bits and pieces and that. So, yeah, feeling a bit disorientated. But it's funny because that's kind of like what we were talking about routines and just.
Yeah. And I think it's just like, this is why I like our conversations, because our conversations, like, we plan a little bit, we say, okay, let's talk about this month about that and whatever. And at the same time, like, it is really what's coming up for us as well, right? I mean, we think of like what we think that, the people listening to us, the entrepreneurs, the change makers, what kind of things they might be dealing with, but it's what we are dealing with too.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I think particularly in this time, like in the last couple of weeks, there's so many people who said to me, like, that they go like, I don't know what day it is. Like, I don't have a structure. And then the people, that's not an issue for me, but a lot of my clients and people I work with, they have children at home, and then they go, can we please, maybe in the Netherlands, the schools are opening again next week. So I had one client as well asking, like, can we please just postpone the sessions till when the kids are at home, because I can't, there's nothing, I don't find time. I'm all over the place. I can't get time for myself. I can't even think about the things we discuss otherwise. I think everything is thrown up. Everything is different. And even for me, like, I noticed that I've been working from home for way before this, but even so, there were certain things that happened at certain days outside, and now I'm even like going, I don't know what day of the week it is. I'm going even like, putting out the bins. I go like, what day are we again? What week is it?
Yeah, you're right, and I think it's throwing up how much we rely on our routines. It's like, when something becomes a habit, I mean, this is good and bad, but when something becomes a habit or a routine, it's like we can designate it to our subconscious, so we don't have to consciously think about it. But like you say, now, because our routines are being disrupted, it's like we've got to think about so many more things consciously, that it's kind of like taking up mental space, mental capacity. And I think, sometimes that can be draining. So it's like, so it's kind of like we've got to put in our own routines, but they're new, they're different to what they were before.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot more, you need to rely more on your own. You need to make that structure. You need to make that routine right now, right? Like before, like there were some outside things that forced it upon you. Like for people with children, it would have been when the kids are at school, that was set in time. Like, and even for certain meetings, and we talk about a bit more about that next time, but like before, you had certain courses, certain meetings at certain times, whereas now, I mean, some of them still happen, but there is a lot more, and a lot I notice even for myself, like that you know, when I offer meditation sessions, I have my structured ones that are at certain times, but I also offer some other ones, and they might be randomly at different times, which, you know, which is what people like. But at the same time, it's not something, then you don't have that little thing you can hold on that, you know, oh yeah, it's Monday morning at 9 o'clock or something like that. Suddenly it's like, yeah, that structure is gone.
Yeah.
So I think that's very interesting. It can be very freeing as well to a degree. But as you said, our mind also very much likes certain habitual things and certain things that kind of give you a little anchor. So it works both ways.
Yeah. And it is interesting because I belong to a health club, so I go to the gym regularly or classes, you know, whether that's yoga or Pilates or gym workouts or whatever. And some of those are like at fixed times of days, different days and that. Whereas now, obviously, exercise is just like me going outside for a run or doing something in the home. And it's kind of like, when you had that, like, oh, I've booked into a class or something, like you say, you'll get up and you'll go. Whereas now it's like, it's totally down to you. So, you know, and some days you might think, oh, can I be bothered? You know, and it's like, whereas when you, even though you could easily not go to the gym, but it was just, there's like a trigger there to say, no, I've booked in, I'll go. And then when you go, you feel better. But it's very easy to kind of go, oh, do I feel like it today? No, I'll give it a miss. And then a new routine or a new habit can form where you don't actually do something that actually you want to do or is beneficial to you, because I always feel better when I go, you know, and do exercise. So yeah, it's very easy for a new habit to form that you don't want.
You know, it's actually interesting while you're speaking, what came up for me is that I noticed that a lot of my business related meetings and things I do, they have in a way become less structured or less following a routine. But then I realized that for the last couple of weeks, like we have friends that there's one couple that we meet with according to all the rules, of course, but like, you know, we limited to that so that, you know, there's still not that you're meeting lots of people, but we've been doing that always on the same day. And I was like, actually, and then there is like with other friends, they have on one particular day that as a social gathering, there's a certain Zoom call organized. I'm like, that never happened before. Normally when I would arrange to meet people socially, that would have been like, well, when can you make it? Next week or then, this day, that day. And now those ones have become structured.
Yeah.
Whereas my work is actually way less structured, and it's much more like, oh, who is available when, and even the courses are less structured. So it's actually funny to see. But I think, yeah, like just for people, for themselves to realize, you know, it's neither good nor bad that there is less structure or less routine, but for you, if you notice it's causing you overwhelm, then just look at what you can do to give yourself a few things that give you that anchoring or that routine or that structure. And that could be anything, but also like, that's why I mentioned the example for me with my social life, that actually helped. I just know Saturday evening, this is happening every week. Yeah, and of course we can change it. I mean, it's not set in stone, but it is a little anchor in my week. And I think so for you, if you think that helps you, then I think just look in your life, like look at what it is that you could structure that doesn't feel limiting, doesn't feel that you're putting yourself under pressure, but that gives you just that, oh yeah. And that could even be something that, like, you know, really put it in your phone, put it in like put it in your calendar as a meeting that you go for a walk on Monday morning for half an hour. And again, this is just a suggestion just to show you something like that you could do. But I think for a lot of people that helps, that there is that, it's sometimes we need to plan things to make a routine, to as you said, to give our minds that relaxation, but also to allow ourselves to actually do it. Sometimes it's easier than that you just say, oh yeah, I'll do it whenever it may happen, and then it just never happens.
Yeah. I think also, I mean, you know, you hear a lot of people who talk about having a morning routine, and that may very well work for some people. It may be that, you know, that you have some process that might get you into the mood for work or doing something, you know, so you have a structure. So for instance, you were talking about people normally taking their children to school, and now that's not happening, but maybe they can put something else in. I mean, I know even, you know, when I look back to when I was working in the corporate world, it's like just getting up in the morning, putting on your suit, getting ready, getting on the train and having that half-hour journey on the train and then a walk after. But that is, you know, you had to do it to get to the office, but actually that becomes part of a morning routine, whether it's what you want. So it doesn't have to be doing half an hour of yoga and meditating and doing that. That's great if that's what works for you, but if it doesn't, find something else. It might be, like you say, going out for a walk, or it might be, you know, reading for 20 minutes, something that lifts you up and you know, that's just interesting for you, or it might be listening to a podcast or something like that. It's just something that just gets you into some space that you feel more positive and that you can, you know, get ready for your day and what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think that's again it, isn't it? As we talked about it at the very start of this conversation, where we said like it brings more normally the routine to a large degree kind of is put upon us because of external factors, like as you said, when does your job start, or the school from the kids, so you have to be somewhere at a certain time. You cannot really, like, you know, you might in work be a little bit flexible that you can start between certain times or whatever, but there's still a lot of external motivation, if you like, that's putting upon you when you're supposed to do certain things. Like even as you said, the gym, like yes, you can choose which classes, but those classes are in a particular place at a particular time. So if you want to follow that class, that's when you have to go. And now there's much more on you. But again, that can also really mean that when you make the routine, it can be much more in your flow, because you're way more flexible maybe in, like, you know, choosing your times and when you're doing it and how you do it. So, and this could be really anything, because I like the one that you say, the morning routine. I heard from a lot of people who feel that their starting of the day gets a little bit diluted because they just, you know, they stay in their pajama, they just, and again, if that works for you, there's nothing wrong with it. But for a lot of people said that they then felt, you know, that it didn't work for them. So then it could even be an idea that, as you said, your commute, if you're in a country where you're still allowed to go outside, then maybe just run round around the block, make that your commute, so that there is that feeling of, you have to get dressed first to go out. Most people think so anyway. And then, you know, you can make that part. And then it's really, I come home, but I'm now in my office and now I'm doing my day. So again, and it's playing with that. Some people go like, well, that's crazy, I don't need that. Well, then don't. But, like, you know, find what your flow, what feels right for you, that you can feel that you can get out of that space where you're going in overwhelm of like, I don't know even what day it is, I don't know what to do, and I'm actually losing half my day on trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. And this is where having a little bit of a structure and a plan for the week. I'm someone who, I don't like strict plans. Some people love them. It depends on your personality type, but I like to have that choice and that freedom of what I want to do. But I always set myself 3 or 4 things that I want to achieve in the week. Yeah. So that I know that I've still got something to aim for and to get done, but you can have that freedom and flexibility of when you do them throughout the week.
And I think that's a perfect something to pick up on in our next conversation, because we said that next week we'll be talking about more the productivity and prioritization side of things around all this. So if it's okay with you, I think, shall we talk about that next time?
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope this has been helpful in any way, that maybe whoever's listening, that you've picked up something here that you can think that you can apply for yourself to make life just a little bit easier, a little bit more getting out of overwhelm, if that's what you're struggling with. And if it did bring up any ideas or questions, or if you have any other suggestions that might be helpful for us or anyone else who's listening, then please do put them in the comments or send us a message if you want. We'd love to hear from you. And otherwise, we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? Do share your thoughts and questions in the comments or send us a message.
Do you know someone else who'd be interested in our curious conversations? Please share and spread the word. You can find out more about us at KarenRavel.com
and TessaVanKeken.com. Tune in next week for another curious conversation.